Dragon Ball Legends 7th Anniversary Part 1 is finally coming to a close, and thank God, because it's been rough with 2 dead weeks so far, besides the Ultra Hit Plat and Rev UI Zenkai of course, but those are definitely not carrying Anniversary, especially Part 1, and nothing but double and triple UI Goku teams. But now, it seems like things are finally turning around. Last night, the official Dragon Ball Legends Twitter account tweeted out their hint for the LF in Part 2 that'll get revealed tomorrow morning. But before we take a look at it and I give my own opinion, I want to know what you guys think. The past few weeks, I've seen people guess anywhere from, God forbid, Saiyan Saga to, God forbid again, Daima. Here's the clip.
Dragon Ball Legends. Tomorrow, big news right at the beginning.
All right, so the first and most obvious thing that comes to mind when I see this clip is the theme of the background. This is the Rocky Land, I think it's called, map from early Saiyan Saga. This is, of course, where Goku and Vegeta had their first battle, so there's a few ways this could be taken. Could this be alluding to Saiyan Saga maybe for Part 2? I really hope not. This is like my far-fetched guess. I think this is even more far-fetched than my second theory that we'll go over in a second. But if that is the case, I mean, man, Legends is just like, bro, I don't know, man. That's the most obvious direction I think people might take this specific hint. But let's dive a little deeper into that thought process. If we go with the idea that Part 2 could potentially be Saiyan Saga for some ungodly reason, obviously we really hope it's not, there's a couple of really cool units that could come from this. One of the potentially more low-key options could be a new LF Kaio-Ken Goku and the return of the transformation timer that we haven't seen in, I don't know, years at this point. A Goku that activates Kaio-Ken times 4 or times 10 for 60 counts would kind of be pretty sick. I mean, in today's, climate of Dragon Ball Legends, he's gonna have to be insanely strong when he does activate that. But let me not even beat around the bush anymore, because the other unit we're all expecting would be kind of the main attraction, I guess. Another LF Grade 8 Vegeta, but this one finally introduces giants into the game. Now, this is a common theory I've been seeing, and one that I can kind of get behind, especially since the data miners a few weeks back went and resurfaced all of the game files alluding to this and something else we're going to talk about in a bit. Transforming Grade 8 Vegeta might not be the most hype unit just from namesake, but the idea of a new mechanic and type of unit being brought into the game would almost surely make this unit a must-have for the time being. The only giant character in the game would fundamentally change how the game is played. So I think that if this did come to fruition, he would either have a really polarizing weakness, I mean, he would have to, right? Or there would have to be some other form of balancing mechanism the devs would have to implement to keep a character like this in check and just keep him from running over the entire game. I'd imagine a giant would have similar mechanics to what they have in Sparking Zero, like some form of super armor, high defense, slower dashes, maybe bigger ki blasts even. It'd be really interesting to see how a giant character specifically interacts with something like UI Goku's auto dodge gauge as well. So if this is something that could potentially happen, I just pray that they thought about every single possible scenario this could cause. Let me know down below in the comments if you're excited for giant characters potentially coming to Dragon Ball Legends, or if that honestly just scares you, because like I said, something like that is just absolutely game changing, and I can almost guarantee it would be a must-have. Now, the next thing I think a lot of us think this hint is alluding to, and this is probably a little bit more realistic because I really don't think that Legends would be so freaking, I don't even know the word, I don't want to even insult them like that, but having Saiyan Saga for Part 2 of the biggest anniversary of all time, like, bro, they can't be that crazy, right? So I think the next thing that this hint alludes to is ground battles finally being implemented into the game. And this kind of sort of pairs with the thought of giants being brought to Legends too, because alongside the in-game files, it would pretty much makes sense for these two to arrive at the same time, because Grade 8 Vegeta mostly fought on the ground, as was the whole battle against the Z fighters. But a new mechanic with the introduction of a completely brand new unit type would, in my opinion, let me know if I'm wrong, with this would save the entire celebration before we even get to the Part 3 Ultra, which I'm sure is going to be something absolutely insane. That has to be what they were kind of leaning on to really carry this anniversary. If Part 2 is as weak as Part 1, the Part 3 Ultra has to be something that none of us could even expect, right? Part 1 was kind of mid, I can't lie. We expected UI Goku to be included to some degree in some kind of capacity. I know a lot of us were maybe expecting him to be the Part 3 Ultra, but either way, this didn't necessarily carry Part 1 for anybody. I mean, maybe I should just speak for myself, but I know the general consensus is that Part 1 was also pretty weak. Part 2 of Anniversary is usually a little less hyped than Part 1. I like to think of it as the calm before the storm with the Part 3 Ultra, right? But if we do get ground battles or even giant characters, this could honestly turn into the best celebration of all time that they were hyping it up to be before Part 3, especially with all of the crystals and the free LFZ power being given out. Now, there is still a side of the community that thinks sagas from the movies could be seeing a buff soon. And if the Part 2 hint is strictly for ground battles, which I really don't think it is, because in the tweet they even prefaced this by saying new character prediction campaign, so the video has to have something to do with the new character, right? But if this is mostly for ground battles, then I guess sagas from movies is still on the table, right? Now, if it's not, I have no idea how this could represent anything about Dragon Ball Super Gogeta or DBS Broly as the LF like a lot of us have been predicting and expecting. The only thing I can really think of this possibly representing is the wastelands that Goku and Vegeta instant transmission to, where Piccolo was, so they could fuse during the fight with Broly. If I'm forgetting anything else, please let me know, but with the hint that they gave us, I'm not too sure. Of course, I would love for Purple Revival Gohan to get Zenkai'd, but that would really only happen if movies got buffed in some capacity, right? And if we want to get really into conspiracy land even more, I couldn't really hear anything too specific within the sound of the video. I'll go ahead and play it again for you guys.
Dragon Ball Legends.
See, there's really nothing too distinct with the game audio in the background. Is really just a Legends match going on back there. I didn't really hear any like slow combat or anything like that, so I can't necessarily say it sounded like a giant character. There was no in-game voices or anything like that, so you don't know who's fighting back there. They kept that really inconspicuous, so anything is on the table right now. And I don't really usually wear my tinfoil hat, but if you want to get really deep into conspiracy land with this video, they did put big news in big bold letters, right? If I want to be a conspiracy theorist, I would say that that could be alluding to giants, but I usually, you know, I try to kind of stay off the conspiracies with a game like this, because the hints that they give us are pretty much consistent and they're not necessarily easy to guess, but you can guess them more often than not, right? But anyways, fellas, I want to know what you guys think about Dragon Ball Legends Part 2's announcement possibly being ground battles. Maybe it's sagas from the movies, maybe it's giant characters, God forbid, maybe it's even just simply Saiyan Saga, and this was the easiest hint in the world to guess. But let me know what you guys think that they're gonna announce tomorrow during the reveals for Part 2 of the anniversary. Have a great day, and I'm gonna see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.